this is the part, and I got to give Jen Bruins the huge credit for this part of the conversation, because every time you talk about careers that are options available, and we say the world is your oyster, but I think that we fall short by saying how do you get those careers and what tools do you need? So let's jump in and talk specifically. Let's first talk about goal setting. So who wants to jump in and say, like, where do you want to take your career? How do you really sit down? What's the hard question you ask yourself first? Like, is it just I'm bored with where I'm at, I want to change? Or is there a bigger piece to that? Jen or Jennifer, do you want to take that?
Sure. Nothing like having two Jens on the panel.
I know.
I go by Jen Idexx, so you can actually just get
there it is, Jen Idexx.
Consider that like that's my last name. I'll jump in super quick and just say that I'll echo what Gina said earlier. I do think you really have to think about what's your passion. And if you're working in practice, some of that can be, I love talking about nutrition. I love talking about behavior. I am a massive science geek. Like, I love staring through a microscope all day. I don't like people. There's certain things that we do as technicians. Sorry, dogs. There's certain things we do as technicians that fall into those categories and then can point you in a direction about where you may want to take the next step in your career, and then maybe start talking to some of those people that you run into that come into your practice that might help you focus that goal a little bit more.
And Jennifer from Wellhaven, boy, you're all going to be branded now. And Madison, I'll start calling you Madison from Hills. So it's all equal. So Jennifer, talk to us about what else can we add to it? Should we be looking at self-assessments? I am kind of curious about this. I'm reading Strength Finders for the second time. I took it when I was very young. There we go. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I think what's really important, and I always look at present state versus future state, right? So I am here today and I want to get here. What are the exact steps that I need to go to do that? And I think what Jen just said was really important to pull out, which is, what does that look like? So if I say my passion's nutrition, my passion's teaching, find out people that are doing the jobs today, or even better yet, ask a recruiter or a leader that is hiring for those positions and say, what clinical or not clinical, what competencies, leadership competencies, skills do I need to get there? So for example, if you said, I really want to be a teacher, I want to be an RVT, LVT teacher, you might need to be able to do crucial accountability, able to do presentations, real skill building, and then add that into your development plan. One thing we know about adult learners, which we all are, is that most of our learning happens on the job, right? So we can read Strength Finders, we can read crucial accountability, but what you really have to have is a partner, a colleague every day that you work with, that you can say, I am working on these things that are going to build my career, and I want to learn how to do that in the job that I have today. And there are ways to do that, but that's one of my best key things is identify the competencies and do it every day in your practice that you're doing today.
So I will say that that's really hard for people. They think they already can do it. So it is really hard to take that self-assessment, right? Do I have the competency? Do I not have the competency? So I would say I do highly encourage folks to look for those other elements to really help you narrow in on what is it that you are really good at or not. And look at your reviews too, right? Your performance reviews. What is it that you need to work on? I think that that's really critically important. But Madison, I think you hit on something in our first part that is super important. You networked early. You were asking the question. So what would you encourage people to do? Who should they talk to? They're talking about talking to recruiters, but you went to the sales force, you were jumping in. Any kind of from the networking advice that you would provide there?
Yeah, for sure. So I think kind of what Dr. Brun said about making yourself great before you venture on to your next step. Look within yourself and find out the things that you need to work on to be a better person, be a better leader. But networking, I learned kind of in college was obviously your skills get you to where you need to be, but your networking, your ability to be social and, compatible with other people is going to get you far. A good way that I learned as a tech going to network is if you are going to a CE event and you're only in small animal medicine, but you have never ever stepped foot into any kind of large animal medicine, and you see something on equine dentistry, and you're like, okay, that's not going to pertain to anything I'm doing, but I'm going to go attend it just to see what it's about, what it is. So right then you find, hey, I really like doing that. You're going to walk up there to the clinician or to the doctor, whoever's giving the speech, and let them know, introduce yourself, let them know your background. These people who are giving these speeches or giving these presentations are ecstatic to know that what they gave is going to be impactful and that they are making a difference. So by you going up to them, you don't know, they could be hiring a position right then and say, hey, give me your resume right now. I'll look it over, and maybe tomorrow I'll give you a call for an interview. You never know. And so it's the bravery and the courageousness to step up and talk to people that you don't know, because they're always willing to. Everybody in the medical professional, if you're giving education, you know that you like to have that engagement and that compassion received back just as well as you got it. So that is my thing on networking. I think you should always never undersell yourself, always oversell yourself, and you will find that doors will be open.
So, Jen from Idexx, let's talk about the educational requirements, because we are a medical community. We have lots of letters behind our names. If someone is looking to change or evolve, obviously going into a specialty, that one does require a bit. But talk about the role education plays in all of this.
It definitely does. And there's been some openings up, and it depends on kind of what organization, what company that you're having conversations with. I know with some of the organizations that I was approaching back, 15 years ago, a 4-year degree of SunDescript was kind of a bar that you had to have under your belt. And quite frankly, just so everyone knows, I didn't have it. I did not have it at the time. And I actually started with Pfizer Animal Health without my 4-year degree and pursued it at the time to get to where I needed to be to have that, kind of requirement. So that can be something that you have to be aware of if it's an area that you want to pursue. But there's also a lot of opportunities, at least specifically, even with Idexx in particular. We talked a little bit about there's different roles we have, whether it's marketing, our field support reps, our lab technicians. There's a lot of different opportunities that may or may not require that sort of degree, but do very much value the experience and the knowledge that veterinary technicians would bring to the table.
So I absolutely love that. So Jen from Wellhaven, I didn't ask you this before, and I've actually never asked, and I am curious about this because a couple of people made a comment in the chat. What about volunteering? What role does volunteering play in advancing your career? So I am really curious about that, and I'd love for the rest of you to comment on too, because it seems to be something that people love to do, but is it a requirement to move your career forward?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you just look at the sheer number, we spend about 26% of our week working. That's about what the hours versus the rest of the time. So you have a lot of people
more. What is it?
Right?
It feels like
so, what are you doing with that other 70%, right? I'll just say that, besides sleeping. So I think there is lots of opportunities. You can really connect within the community, even sitting on boards. Think about how useful you can be with people in your community that can help build networks and can help build skills. So, I could think of a few things. There's a lot of FFA 4-H people that always need help, the humane societies, wildlife centers, zoos, you could probably go on, right? So even if you're feeling a little personally stuck, like the mundane, we were talking about this in my group, what is it like? I don't see a lot of passion right now, or people are really worn down. Can you use your passion and volunteer for something? And what would that look like? So I actually think that's a really great place to start. And a lot of practices in place will take that on for sure.
I love that. And let me ask Madison, any comments on the volunteering? I do want to get people back to the tables here in a moment, but any comments on the volunteering?
I think volunteering is really what it builds character, as my parents always said. And also, too, it presents opportunities for networking. You know, if you're working at a shelter, you never know if you meet a fill-in veterinarian who is, you know, working at a zoo. And those jobs are really, really hard to come by, as somebody mentioned in the chat. So what if you were volunteering and you met somebody who could give you an opportunity that you wouldn't be able to get just by putting your resume in a stack of resumes this high? I always recommend volunteering. I volunteered in high school or in college, and it's gotten me to where I am today.
No, I think that's great. And then Jen, a final word on that, or is there anything else besides volunteering that we should really be looking at when we're looking to advance our careers?
Again, I echo everything everyone said about volunteering. I think that it drives our passions and it feeds our souls a little bit, and it's also a fantastic way to network. But I think one thing, my husband's actually a recruiter, and I think one thing I have to mention is I think as an industry, he's not in the veterinary industry, but in the industry, I think it's an area that we could all do better about is getting engaged with LinkedIn and networking that way, because I do think it's an area that we, especially as technicians, don't really take advantage of. And there's some amazing people and amazing opportunities for connecting with people through LinkedIn, especially if you're looking to broaden your career and broaden your experience.
I think that's awesome. And just a plug, we are thinking about having another conversation just on LinkedIn on just that for anyone in the profession, but tonight's only for veterinary nurses and technicians. So what I'm going to say now is we're going to let you all go back to the tables because I think you were having a lot of fun. Again, make sure that we leave a little space for Jen and Madison to go back to their tables. And feel free to move around, folks. The topic now, we are switching it up on you, is really to discuss what do you need to move on in your career? What assessments do you need to take on the early end? What tools or resources do you need? Where is a good place to network? The Bridge Club. Is there other things that you need to be doing in order to advance your career? I think the volunteering is absolutely huge, especially as Jen had indicated, if you're dealing with burnout or you're feeling like, oh, the mundane, and then you get to go do something wickedly cool with a tiger. I'm not saying that's always going to happen, but wouldn't that be amazing? And the stories you get to tell.